FIFA, Robin Williams, and Native Americans get citizenship all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is June 2nd. It is the 153rd day of the year. There are 212 days left in 2025. It is the 22nd Monday in the 23rd week and the 75th day of spring. You got 18 days left until summer. If today is your birthday, you have an alexandrite, a pearl, or a moonstone to choose from. You get 3. Why they get 3? If you were born on this day or know anyone that was, they are a Gemini. There are no special holidays or anything like that today, so we'll move on to see what else June 2nd has given us. 1896, Guglielmo Marconi applies for his patent for the wireless telegraph. This guy was a big rival for all the inventors back in the day, including Nikola Tesla. He basically made it possible for us to have the radio. June 2nd, 1924, President Calvin Coolidge signs the Indian Citizenship Act into law. On this day, President Calvin Coolidge did something that honestly probably should have happened a few centuries earlier, but he signed the Indian Citizenship Act, granting U.S. citizenship to all Native Americans born within the territorial limits of the United States. So let me get this right. You take over their land, and then you tell them they could join the party. Shouldn't they be the ones that gave us citizenship? I'm just asking for a friend. But let that sink in. Native Americans, whose ancestors lived on this land long before Columbus got lost and ended up offshore someplace, they weren't automatically considered U.S. citizens until 1924. Before this law, only certain Native Americans could gain citizenship through things like military service, land allotment, and under the Dawes Act, or marrying a U.S. citizen. Everyone else legally excluded from the very nation that had taken over their land. The Indian Citizenship Act was partly a response to Native American contributions during World War I. Thousands of Native men enlisted, even though they weren't citizens at the time. The government, perhaps realizing the contradiction of asking people to fight for a country that didn't legally recognize them, decided it was time to make a change. But don't think it was a magical turning point. Becoming a citizen didn't mean Native Americans suddenly gained full rights. Many states, particularly in the West and South, still denied Native Americans the right to vote for years afterwards. Local laws, discriminatory policies, and blatant racism kept many of them from participating in the democracy they were now officially part of. Still, the Indian Citizenship Act was a big step, one that acknowledged, at least on paper, that Native Americans were part of the American nation. Coolidge even posed for a photo with a group of Native leaders in full regalia, in what was probably the 1924 version of a performative photo op. In short, it was long overdue, and it was granted by the same federal government that had spent decades removing, relocating, and assimilating Native populations. A symbolic gesture with limited immediate effect, but one that would help set the stage for Native civil rights battles in the decades to come. 1962, during the FIFA World Cup, police had to intervene multiple times in fights between Chilean and Italian players in one of the most violent games in football history. 1979, Pope John Paul II starts his first official visit to native Poland, becoming the first pope to visit a communist country. 2012, former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak is sentenced to life in prison for his role in killing demonstrators during the 2011 Egyptian Revolution. Now, I've talked about this before, but this was all part of the Arab Spring, which changed the Arab countries. I mean, all the countries were involved in this. Algeria, Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Oman, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, and Yemen, with a handful of their leaders being overthrown, and in one case, murdered. Muammar Gaddafi. He tried to make a break for it with him and his bodyguards, and the protesters stopped him and pretty much killed all of them. Movies released on June 2nd, 1989, The Dead Poet Society. An English teacher inspires his students to be affected by poetry. The film takes place in 1959 in a fictional elite Vermont boarding school called Welton Academy. The movie was filmed at a private boarding school in Delaware, and the director, Peter Weir, had all the young actors live together in order to bond. Robin Williams played their teacher. He was amazing. It was a great movie. If you've never seen it, it's definitely worth watching. Died on June 2nd, 2012, we lost Richard Dawson. English-American soldier, actor, television personality, and game show host. Everyone remembers him from Hogan's Heroes and, of course, the original Family Feud. He kissed all the women that came on the show, probably spreading all kinds of flus and everything else. But this was back in the late 70s, early 80s, and that was okay back then. He died from complications of his esophagus cancer. He was 79 years old. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.